Oops, they got a little sneak of you. Okay, we are live. Welcome, everybody, to the Corona Shift, the podcast that asks performers how they're getting by when all the bars are closed and all the shows are canceled. We have a few things happening coming up. If you're watching this live, the podcast will be coming out after these things happen, but check them out if you're watching this live. Next week, we're back to the stage with Comic Sans. So Waterloo and Toronto. We're at Comedy Bar on the 25th. And then Patent Social in Waterloo on the 26th. The theme is Hot Girl Summer because it's our last show of the summer, and we're celebrating with women comedians and women's stories. So we're taking an opportunity of that. Also, 27th of August, I will be doing a great series produced by my friends Fallon Shaw and Patrick Alexander of Niagara Falls. It's called Coming Out Stories, and it's in partnership with Niagara Falls Museums. So I'll be sharing my own coming out story, August 27th. I have 45 minutes to talk all to myself. So it's going to be so self-indulgent as everything. You can find tickets to our Hamilton, Waterloo, and Toronto productions on our website, comicsansproductions.ca. You can also find, we're doing a one-off show called Mad Funny. It's a weed-friendly show at 420 Cannabis Comedy. 420 Cannabis Court. That's September 3rd with headliner Nitish Sakura. We've got Tamara Siobhan, Nima Nazari, Sashka DC, and a drag performance by Mango Lassie. This is hosted by Cliff Knight. You can find that on September 3rd. Things are coming back. We're getting there. We're performing again. We're doing live shows. I'm super excited about all of this. So that is what is happening. We're gonna do the intro and start the show, and then we have a very, very special guest today. So bear with me. Welcome to the Corona Shift, episode 10. I am so excited to have today's guest on the show. Hers was the very first concert I ever saw live, and I've been a huge fan ever since. She's written a wonderful best-selling book, I, Bifficus. She's currently working on her 6th studio album, Champion. Please welcome to the show, Canadian rock icon, Bif Naked.
Oh my goodness, so sweet. Hello.
Beth, how are you?
I'm so excited hearing all your up and coming things that are happening. Yay, we are coming back.
We are. Life is coming back. Things are happening. We're still kind of doing all of the online and virtual, like the accommodation stuff, but we're starting to get back into live performance and things like that, and that's really exciting.
Yes, it is.
It's different. It's strange. It's a little Twilight Zone-y, but it's I appreciate everything we can do.
Yeah, me too.
Everything.
Yeah.
We're finding new venues and like fun little like we're hacking the environment. We're performing at like parks and backyards and patios and things like that. So it's like, is this the career equivalent of homelessness? I don't know.
I never thought of that.
If so, I like it. Like we're getting sun. It's super casual and festival-y feeling and things like that. So.
Yes.
And And again, just grateful for any opportunity to engage with people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you? How are I know you can't sell out stadiums and arenas yet, but
Yeah. I
how is
don't think that it's like there's no mosh pits.
right?
That's the thing.
Right.
So I think mosh pits are going to be the last thing to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Understandably, and they may never. Like you think about all these artists that are now doing, for example, drive-in shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like it's. I mean, it sounds like it's something that can work. And like yourself, I mean, we'll play anywhere ultimately because we are for sure. We're performers. It's all we do.
Right.
Love it. Like we love the audience interaction. So I mean, for me moving forward, this year has been, very, like you said, it's surreal. It's kind of like the Twilight Zone, but at the same time, a lot of us are artists anyway. So it's not like we necessarily had an office to go to as far as our creative work goes. I mean, a lot of us are still being creative, and it almost forced a lot of artists to be even more creative because they finally had an opportunity to shelter in place, butt in chair, sit your butt down and create. And that's hard for a lot of artists who are accustomed to always being on the move. And, a lot of us are, attention deficit. So we're all over the place anyway. We're busy. And it forces us to stop, pause.
Mm-hmm.
It forced a lot of us to set the reset button. But
Right.
yeah, if we are not physically playing or performing somewhere, we don't get paid.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
that's a bottom line. So I think that it's been very daunting for a lot of
Mm-hmm.
artists, and any kind of added anxiety to an already anxious bunch. It kind of stifles creativity in a way. So I think it's been a lot for the arts community to take on. It is a lot, and it's hard because a lot of people who maybe previously weren't on social media now are living on social media, and a lot of people who previously weren't that savvy with social media, let's say, now are thriving on social media. And then,
Mm-hmm.
our sorry artist asses who are, feeling defeated or depressed or trying to keep it together. We're kind of going, oh, they've set the bar so high. And so now we all are like scrambling to try. It's been a lot, I think, for people.
Mm-hmm.
It really has. But I like your attitude where even just that small phrase, it seems like such an insignificant thing, but even just your saying out loud, we're coming back, it gives hope to people because it's, again, there's a lot of competition because now everyone's competing for those gigs and venues if they open.
Right.
Everyone's
Right.
still competing. So it's going to be very interesting. But the good news is it is exciting. It forces us to reimagine ways to perform. It forces us to reimagine our shows and how to make it vital for us again. It's kind of, in a way, it's kind of exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah, it forces us to reimagine things. It forces us to be creative and shake things up. And I mean, creativity thrives in difficult and challenging environments. I
So
mean,
true. Like,
a
why is
big
that
part.
true? I don't know, but it is. It's so
I
true.
know for me, a big part of my creative process is what boundaries can I put into place and what restrictions can I put into place so that I'm not sitting there thinking I can write and talk about anything.
Right.
So what sort of little challenges do we take and help those muscles exercise? So
Mm-hmm.
this is just that on a global scale almost.
Definitely. Yeah, you nailed
Yeah.
it.
Hmm. I like to start the show by just getting to know the guest a little bit more. And I mean, we've met a couple times, and I consider you a friend, and I'm such a huge
I
fan.
consider you a
So
friend.
yeah. But I want to ask you a few questions that I've pulled
Okay.
from the New York Times. 36
Oh,
questions that lead to love.
oh, interesting. I love it.
because we all need a little more love in our lives,
Yes,
right?
we do. Yes, we do.
First one, what would constitute a perfect day for you?
This one right now.
Ah,
Absolutely. This one right now. How fun is that to have? I mean, what a pleasure it is to be able to visit with you.
mhm,
And also, I mean, it is a great opportunity, not just to visit with a nice person and have a conversation, which is a, an emotional thing because it's a connection that humans need, that we need, but also the fact that you have all this equipment where you're streaming it live, which is to me bewildering because I don't know how you're doing it because I just basically know what I know. And I don't. So to me, I think that it's really unique, and it's unique to have that kind of a day where this is what we're doing this afternoon. I mean, my mother is not doing this afternoon. Not that what she's doing is not equally as enjoyable, but
mhm.
for me, this is very, very enjoyable, and so this is my idea of a perfect day.
Aw. That's such a great perspective, and that's so Biff as well. That's so you. That today, every day today is the perfect day. Today is the best day because
Absolutely.
just following you on social media, I know how much you appreciate a beautiful sunrise or an interesting bird out the window, and I
Mhm.
you know I love your views from your place because you appreciate it so much and you translate that view through your emotions and your expressions, and it's always so beautiful. Almost every morning,
I'm
there's
so glad.
a little poem or a little meditation to the environment and your environment, and I think that's so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm really relieved, to be honest with you, because two things are in play. One is sheltering in place.
Hmm.
So ultimately, we were all stuck at home I mean, for us, since the 18th of March, we have been stuck in that apartment. And because we followed the rules, because we're good kids like that.
Hmm.
However, it can be very you know, uh, it can be very hard for people. And a lot of people have had a great deal of difficulty trying to cope with being stuck at home and sheltering in place and having restrictions placed upon their comings and goings and all this stuff. But also, a lot of my friends who I care about deeply, their experiences have really been awful because they have really missed being able to go into their offices or to have that interaction with other human beings. I mean, my problem is I'm a hugger, so that's
Hmm.
probably for me the worst thing. But with morning gratitude meditations, it's basically my default way of thinking. No, so wherever I am, it's going to be the same way. I'm going to think, I'm going to try and be grateful and share it. And I take my stupid phone is so full of pictures, I can't fit music on it because I take a picture every morning. I don't post every single picture every morning. But I take one every morning. And yeah, it is the same because we're sheltering in place. We haven't traveled, we haven't gone anywhere. I read an article recently about how optimism can be toxic and how people who are too optimistic are actually perpetuating toxic optimism. And I was like, obviously, I was very surprised that this article. I thought, oh, holy shit, I better read this. I hope I'm not doing that. Oh my gosh, what if my optimism is like toxic? What am I going to do? Like, I had no idea. Maybe I'm just overcompensating. But yeah, actually, this is a coping technique for me when
Hmm.
it's not that it's ever not authentically how I feel,
Right.
but sure, it's a coping technique. I mean, on my worst day in the chemotherapy bed, I had a surgical port implanted in my chest, for example, that always got blood clots. It was infected. It was swollen. It was just like, it was all kinds of suck, like a
Hmm.
lot of patients experience. But if anyone were ever to ask me, especially at that time, I'll be like, this is awesome. That's my medicine button. Ho, ho, ho. Because that was just how I managed. And mostly it was because I didn't want anyone else to feel awkward or bad. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of us kind of, in performing arts particularly, we grew up being those little, like, you know, performing kids that were
Yeah.
always trying to get a laugh. And mostly it was because either A, we were shy, or
Mhm.
B, we didn't want anybody else to feel bad. Like,
Right.
bottom line, like root problems. And I still do it. And so
Right.
that's why I post a picture every morning. Trust me, my manager had to unfollow me uh, quite a few different times, and he follows me back when he forgives me for being so, corny or optimistic. And even my partner does not follow me on Instagram. Everyone knows my partner is very, very grouchy, and does not want to hear my stuff at all. And I just laugh because that's okay. Not
Yeah.
everybody wants to be
Yeah.
happy in the morning, but I do.
Of course, of course. And the relationship dynamic between people too is I love to stress that it's so important, especially for artists or self-employed or very, very self-motivated people, is that you do
Mhm.
need that independence, and you won't be able to find a partner who's as passionate about those things as
Yes,
you are.
that's right.
Um, and that gives you a good sense of self. So I like that.
Mhm. Yeah.
But that's really interesting to think about with toxic
Mhm.
optimism or just optimism as a coping mechanism, because it's
Mhm.
definitely something I do and definitely something I know
Yes.
several people uh,
Yes.
I follow do. And sometimes it does make me, if I'm having a bad day and someone is like, look at this great rooftop view, or we're having food and we're doing all of these great things, and like, oh, well, in contrast, my day looks terrible. However,
Yeah.
so maybe
Yeah.
that's one thing about it. I've tried to be mindful because I know this pandemic is such a difficult time and such a
Mhm.
struggle for a lot of people. And I have my struggles, and it's obviously I'm not happy that this is happening, but I've been focusing on the positives. Um, we joke about artists being creative no matter what, or we talk about
Mhm.
that. And I love to joke about how with the CERB benefit, um, artists are finally getting paid by the government. Like, the government is finally funding artists. They're just funding us not to be artists.
That's right.
But jokes on
100%.
them, because we're going to be artists anyways. So
That's right.
that's been like a saving grace to me, because it gives me the opportunity to work on these things
Mhm.
and create without the pressure of, I need to write this article because it makes money, or I
Mhm.
need to transcribe a video because it makes money. I can focus
Right.
on those things I really want to do,
Mhm.
and hopefully now, when it all comes back uh into like the industry revives again, hopefully it does.
Yeah.
Hopefully all of those things that I've put into place will work and will be successful. So
Yes.
I'm super, super grateful, but I try my hardest not to say, oh, this is my cocoon phase and I'm just going to come out of this bigger and better.
Right.
Or say that this is a wonderful opportunity, because I know so many people are struggling. That's the last
Oh,
thing I
yeah. It's
hear,
unbelievable. It's
is somebody
unbelievable.
celebrating a situation that's causing them so much suffering.
Mhm.
Um, all of that being said, I've had very difficult times as well. Okay, ready for the next question?
Yes.
If you could change anything about the way you were raised, what would it be?
I'm just gonna choke.
Oh,
Wow. That was like
that's a deep
such
question.
huge.
Yeah.
Yes, that's such a big question. Honestly, I don't think could possibly change a thing. Like, I'm an adopted kid, first and foremost. And it's
Mhm,
not only how I identified since I was like old enough to have conscious thought. I always knew I was adopted.
mhm,
And my older sister was also adopted, and my younger sister was not adopted. But it I was always so conscious of that fact that I always was like, I felt like I went from one mummy's tummy to another mummy's heart.
mm,
It was never like, I don't know. I think that my childhood was really fantastic. And I feel very, very lucky. I lost my dad a few years ago. And I think about him all the time, especially this year. My parents were both very involved with civil rights uh, in the 60s and marching and showing up and attending everything that they could, and fighting for justice and social justice and consciousness of trying to work hard on behalf of others and for a better society was always kind of how my parents were. And so I just think that as a kid, I think that I was really lucky, I came from the generation of kids that, were spanked.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it made me a better person. I just want to point that out. But anyway, I digress. But I just think that I had a really lucky opportunity to be a kid and to be a kid growing up in the 70s and 80s. With my sisters, all of our experiences were we were just really lucky. Really, really lucky kids just to be able to be kids and not have all the stuff that kids have to deal with today. So I would not change a single thing actually about my childhood. Nothing at all.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. And yeah, I was spanked too, and I'm grateful for it.
Hey, it's a loaded topic,
I know.
I don't have human children today, so a lot of my friends that do have children, I always feel I can't speak to anything that they got going on. Whether I like it or whether I don't like it, it doesn't matter. It's not my place to ever say.
Right.
But I always think if I did have kids, maybe I would be doing things like this, or maybe I would be doing things maybe the same, maybe different. But all I know is that I'm very happy that I was a kid that got spanked.
Yeah, I know it's so difficult to say as a universal rule whether something like spanking your children or any parenting practices.
I never disrespected my parents. I didn't say damn.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I ran away from home and got a bunch of tattoos, but that wasn't disrespecting my parents in any mean.
But I had my manners.
Yeah.
I was very much the same thing. I was rebellious. I was misunderstood. I didn't understand myself for so long, and with ADHD, I was a brilliant kid, but also struggled struggled in school and acted out a lot. So like I stole a car and all of these. I know.
Cool.
I'm total past life.
Yeah, I understand. I only stole my mother's car.
Yeah, but I also it was so enforced to me that sort of human decency and being polite and giving people courtesy and giving people sort of equal opportunity and equal respect no matter who they are. That's what was beaten into me. But it's hard to say. I don't have children either, so it's hard to say if that's something that was like those were the tools that were given to me and that's how I would raise my children and enforce those values. Or maybe we now have better tools in place. We know more and we have those supports that who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But I'm never having kids, so
yeah.
it's irrelevant either way.
My ovaries away. Yeah.
So you have pets?
I did for a long time. So I post a lot of pictures of my dead dog because I'm still obsessed with him. I always say that whenever I hear a dog bark, my breasts leak milk. And really, that's really all about Nicholas, this little Maltese that I had since he was a puppy. And he finally passed away just before he turned 17. And, he had a head full of rotten teeth by that time, and he had Cushing's, and he had a collapsed trachea and all this stuff. But he had a little asthma puffer, and he was he was just the love of my life. And his wife, who was my Bichon, she died when I was in radiation, so 2008, and it was just I just for some reason I still haven't actually gotten another pet in my home because we were moving. I met my partner 30 days after my grouchy little dog who bit me and bit every human being on the planet. He was little, he was this big. Even if he bit Jackie Chan. 30 days after he died, I met my partner, who was like the most grouchy. He was like my dead dog's grouchy personality, like went into this individual. And then I was in Paris for a long time, and then back and forth, and then I stayed with my dad when he was still alive, and all this stuff. And it just never worked out that I got another dog.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to babysit these senior cats full time, so that was wonderful. And yeah, and it's just now I have I'm like an auntie to these two Pomeranian dogs that are in my world, so I like taking care of them too. So I don't know, it just hasn't happened yet, but now we're finally here in Toronto full time, and I know that the day will come where there's a rescue that I need to meet. So it'll happen.
It does. It will, and it happens when it's meant to happen. I believe.
And how old is your dog?
He is almost 7. He's about 6.5. Yeah.
You Puggle?
He's Puggle and Jack Russell.
Oh.
So he's intelligent enough to get into trouble,
right?
But dumb enough to still be playful and cute.
Hilarious.
So he's everything. Yeah. We love him. I lost a dog 5 or 6 years ago now, and she was this big German Shepherd, and she was everything. Her name was Mocha. We got her serendipitously. My partner at the time and I, we had moved back to Northern Ontario, where we're both from, because Vancouver was way too expensive coming up to the Olympics.
Oy.
Yeah, and it was just time where we were looking for a new apartment, and we said we want something that's pet friendly.
Very nice.
And then we found this dog that was looking for a good home, and it was rescued from a breeder who had bred her too much, so she had some health issues and all of that. And complications from health issues are the reason we had to put her down eventually. But she was just my world, and I'll still remember her
Mocha
all the time. And after Mocha, I decided that I was not going to have any other dogs, but then I met Trisha, fell in love with her, and Pancho, our little dog, and yeah, welcomes him. He's my little stepchild.
Very nice.
But yeah, he's now, I mean, we're inseparable, and we do everything together. So yeah.
Very good. And we're in Northern Ontario.
Sudbury.
Oh, Sudbury. Very cool.
Yeah.
Is that where I played?
It is.
Where you came to the concert?
It is. Yeah.
It's a nickel town.
It is. It's a rough nickel town.
I played there a few times, so I remember all of those shows. All of them. I mean, and that was an amazing era. You know, in music and in concerts, and yeah,
Sudbury, it was. There was so much.
Night.
Yeah, yeah, we're responsible for Stompin' Tom. Let's say that. But it was a great era in music. I'd love to touch on that, because especially Canadian music, and especially rock. I mean, the concert that I saw with you was you and the Tea Party and Holly McNarland.
Oh my gosh.
It was just these great lineups of these great. Yes.
Yes,
it was.
Amazing.
Loads
of fun.
And just every festival, every concert was just killer lineups, and I love that. I'll always be a 90s, early 2000s girl.
Amazing.
For sure.
Amazing.
Yeah, Pat, we have one little comment here that I wanted to address. I'll pull it up on the screen. In regards to CERB, which we mentioned, worth pointing out that there is a petition we can sign to demand a basic livable income depending on the area you're in.
Yes.
I think all artists should be promoting this, as this is something that would help us.
Very good.
That's a really good point. Just wanted to bring that out there. Basic livable income. I mean, I know that economically, all economic models that run with a basic living income, there's nothing but good things coming out of it. And I know there are fears that it would just, the economy would bounce so that if you get $2,000 a month, that's the new broke, that's the new poor, and then it doesn't really
Which
help
is
anybody.
astonishing because that's not even it's like it's so infuriating because if you are on social assistance or you're on disability, it'd be 2,000 a month extra would be really nice if the government wanted to actually put it where it's really, really, really needed too. But that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
There's lots of petitions and links that are available out there. I'll make sure that I share them on my social media too.
Thank you, Laura, for pointing that out. I'll be looking for that link and adding it to social media as well in this podcast. Okay, we talked about pets. Why music? What was it about music as a creative passion that drew you?
It was an accident. I'm a theater kid, so I took ballet for 13 years and thought that I would be a prima ballerina. We moved from Kentucky to Manitoba when I was at an impressionable age. And instead of going into the Royal Winnipeg Ballet or whatever else I thought that I could do, I discovered cigarettes and boys. My ruin. But anyway, and then I wound up getting into a theater class in high school. And I had a teacher, Jim Stewart, who's our theater teacher at I was going to say Mackenzie Junior High, is my junior high from Dauphin. But I went to John Taylor Collegiate in Winnipeg. And really, I think that it was such a fantastic opportunity, and still is for kids, when you've got theater programs or music programs in schools. Because I couldn't do sports, so I didn't have those extracurricular activities where I could, feel a belonging with another group of kids. And plus, we didn't really have internet back then, so this was all we had. It was our whole world, and it was nurturing. Really, that I really thought that I thought I'd be a comedian. I thought that I would be in theater. I really did. And I kind of just fell into being in a band in my first year of university. I was a theater major at the University of Winnipeg, and I was also in musical theater at the Prairie Theater Exchange, and fell into this band and loved it. It was punk rock, so it was like, but it was funk punk. They liked everything from the Chili Peppers to the Jungle Brothers to DOA to No Means No to everything. And it was political. I found a place where I could be political and talk about social justice in lyrics. I could talk about heartbreak in lyrics. So it was also a place for my writing. And back then, especially in this type of band, I didn't need lessons. I didn't actually need to sing in tune. It was just about, really bringing the passion to the stage. And over the years, I really realized it's been the best medium of performance for me, really to work in. And I've never done anything else. I love it so much. I love performing. And I think that I'll always be a performer in some way. I will always be a performer.
Yeah. That's great. That's really funny because I was a theater major in high school as well. So I was in a performing arts magnet school. I was a drama major and studied music. And I thought I was going to be a musician.
Wow.
And then fell on stand-up as by accident.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to see your show, your stand-up
Yes.
show.
And I've been lucky enough to have you at the show. We have a comment that you would rock as a comedian. If you ever want to try it, there's always faith.
Well, yeah. I mean, I like skits a lot. I like skits and I like troops. Like, I think it would be fun to be part of a troupe or do a skit. I think that would be lots of fun. I've done improv nights before, and I think that it's outrageous fun.
Yeah, it obviously really is. I love it.
Yeah.
Let me see. I lost a screen here, but Can we talk about quarantine a little bit? Can we talk about the pandemic and how you've been? Because this is something that, I started this podcast because I was bored and
Mm-hmm.
because of the quarantine, but I also wanted to explore the cultural shifts and things that are happening in this time, and not just with the pandemic, but with civil rights, with environmental change, and what we're seeing, all of these things, and how this is impacting performance artists. So I'd like to get a better idea of how did the pandemic influence you in the beginning?
Oh, well, I think that for all of us, going into March and April, I think no one could have anticipated what the year would unfold looking like. We're not science kids, we're not science people. We can't really, we didn't have any of those little foreshadowings. There's lots of people I know who are really interested in loads of different conspiracy theories and stories. And hey, how about that? You know what? Fantastic. That's great. I personally am horrified with the global pandemic. I think that it has devastated complete populations all over the world, and I don't know. I just don't know what is coming. I'm an optimistic person for sure. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not that I think that they can't eradicate it, but I definitely believe that we are forever changed as a result of these diseases that are ravaging our populations, and they were already ravaging a bunch of different animal populations over the years. So we've seen it, and yes, with MERS, with SARS, with the other things, we've seen little glimpses of what this could look like for sure. I think that it has made most people a little more conscientious
Right.
in a big way. I think that a lot of those big changes were great. I don't know anyone who had a cold this year.
Mm-hmm.
No, I really don't. And even my partner, Snake, he always gets a cold. No cold. You know why? Because everyone's washing their hands. You know,
Right.
everyone is, taking care of their, sanitizing their door handles. I mean, just like really simple things people started doing in the beginning. I think those are probably going to be habits that everyone keeps anyway.
Right.
As far as the masks go, I know there's a lot of people who don't like who don't like or want to wear masks. Now, medical condition aside, or mental health condition aside, I'm just talking about this kind of collective defiance in certain uh, little societies.
Mm-hmm.
And I get that. I get it. I see that. I recognize it. I don't have to like it or understand it, but I do. I get it. Me personally, I love masks. I love wearing a mask. When I was in
Mm-hmm.
the hospital with my waiting for surgery on my wrist, I had to wear a mask the whole time I was in the hospital, and I loved it. It was like having a blankie over my face. It was like sleeping under a blankie. So I always call masks my blankie,
Oh.
because there's just something that is just like, takes you back to being a toddler. Sorry, that's how I felt. And so I think it's important, to keep that up. And I think that we will probably have that implemented for a long time. And I think those are all good things. I look at people who have been forced to work from home, who don't enjoy it, or who have had problems working from home. And I still think that they're really super lucky, just if they can still keep their job, literally,
Right.
despite the hardships that causes with, say, for example, childcare and all these, millions of facets of other things that are affected by the pandemic. I think that we're all really lucky. But the bottom line is we're alive. And I think that no matter what I do for a living, whether it's, trying to hustle, getting songs on the radio, or on the whatever, Spotify or whatever, I
Yeah.
think that no matter what, at the end of the day, I can never complain ever, because I'm still alive. And I think that more people, if they really totally understood that it's not a guarantee, really, if they never felt it before, if they never felt before like they were lucky to be alive every day, I would hope that they kind of feel it now, because it
Mm-hmm.
really is true. And people kind of, they pshaw that, and they kind of blow it off, or they're a little apathetic or even indifferent about it. But the truth is, a lot of people have died. A lot of healthy people have died, of all ages, and any one of us really, can succumb to a disease like this. And I just think that people don't really understand that, or they are so in denial because they don't like it. It makes them uncomfortable or fearful, that they dismiss it. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I get that might be somebody's coping technique, but the reality is, really, we're lucky to be alive every single day. And I hope that the pandemic has instilled that in some other people, not just me, because I just think, it makes you kind of grateful for everything that you got going on. So even as an artist, I feel really, really lucky every single day.
Of course, of course.
Yeah.
And that's a great message to take across, is that this is something, it's a universal struggle, it's a universal difficulty. It's, first of all, a unifying factor, because just like other tragedies or other global events, this is something we can say the pandemic, and absolutely everyone in the world knows what you're talking about and
Yes.
has experienced the same thing on some level. So it's a very, very big unifying force. And um and again, I hope we learn from this. I hope that we have, if we draw from these experiences and continue learning and changing our behaviors, and being more grateful for the processes, because this is something that could have absolutely damaged the world. Like
Mm.
it could have been infinitely more tragic, and because of these procedures, and because of science and our knowledge of the world, and calling a public health crisis and taking these measures, we've been able to minimize the damage, and hopefully it gives us a better appreciation for science, because I feel like that's been lost a little bit
Yeah,
in our
it's been very,
culture, and Western
very strange.
culture.
Yeah. Yes, I agree.
Hmm.
I agree 100%.
I was hoping it would squash the anti-vaccination movement a little bit,
Ugh,
but
yeah, it's
I
hard
mean,
to say. I mean, even I didn't get, until I was a cancer patient, I had never gotten a flu shot.
hmm.
It never occurred to me, even though my parents always had gotten flu shots. I just kind of, wrote it off because my father was a public health dentist, and he was um, he was inclined to do that, as was my mom, but we just never thought about it. And then when I was in
Hmm.
treatment, my oncologist told me I had to. And I was like, oh, because I did everything I was told at that time, especially. So I did. And it just never occurred to me that there were people that I knew, respected, and admired that just absolutely refused to get vaccinated for things, just a variety of things, including flu shots and whatnot. And I think
Hmm.
that this year, particularly for all of us, I always say that it's a lesson. Being with other people that have other strong ideas and opinions is always a lesson in our own humility. Because for me anyway, I always sit there and have to ask myself, how am I going to sit here in non-judgment? How do I sit here and really authentically not judge another person because they're saying or doing something that is just absolutely the opposite of me? Not saying
Right.
anti-vaccine ideology is the opposite. I'm going to get my vaccines because that's just how I roll. But say, for example, my husband doesn't want to get a flu shot all these years. So, how do I sit there in non-judgment? It's just like being a vegan, or somebody who's pro-choice. How do we sit here in non-judgment of other people who don't share our views? And I think my hope is, anyway, that people will ask themselves the same question. as we move forward. Because this year, particularly, when everyone is, they're stuck at home. People are armchair activists, but also there's this really weird cancel culture thing, which is a catchphrase, I know, but it's really like this. I don't really think it existed before. Maybe it did, back in the Scarlet Letter era, or like, when you banish people,
Right.
that kind of
And
stuff.
the witch trials and
Yeah, and I wonder about it, because I just think, I don't know, like the way that my brain works. I have always asked myself about, um, judgment. I don't dare ever want to judge another person, and so I kind of have always lived that way, and I just like kind of sit in horror looking at the whole world some days when I read the news, and I just think for me, I just keep going back to that feeling where I just know that we're lucky to be alive, like, period, the end. Um,
Mhm.
and I don't think that's just because I've, as a cancer survivor, or as a, sexual assault survivor, or anything else. I don't think that that's really the reason. I just think that that's just how my brain is wired now, whether it was deliberate or not. That's just how I think. And so when you talk about anti-vaxxers, and it's also people talking about anti-maskers,
Right.
and there's this, and it is, trust me, I've had to, when I was a young person, the Morgenthaler clinics were still a thing, and we would accompany girls and women in to get their services, and we would have to be almost assaulted on a regular basis by these people who were very against those clinics. Let's put it that way.
Right.
I never want to just like, well, they were all pro-lifers. They probably, most of them identified as that. I'm not sure. But some of them maybe didn't even identify as that. They just were there because of whatever reason. Um,
Mhm.
and it was really hard not to be really angry a lot of the time,
Right.
and judge them. Not even them judging us. It was us going like, how can you think this way? And same happens now, I think, with this anti-masker business. I don't know. It's People are very polarized, and again, when you're talking about science, you shouldn't really be polarized when it's about science,
Right.
but people still are. I don't know what the solution is to that.
I don't
Um,
know. I don't
yeah.
know either, but I do think there's a distinction between holding your own beliefs and holding your own values and then inflicting beliefs and values on other people. And I
Yes.
think those are two very distinct things that we need to recognize. I mean, I
Yes.
am I am pro gender diversity. I'm pro queer,
Yes.
pro trans, but I'm not I don't believe that, cis hetero people are doing something wrong. I don't believe that there's inherently something better or worse to either of those lifestyles.
Hmm.
Also, I know there are people who probably have struggles with those issues and those values that they're suppressing, or issues that they're translating a different way because of how they were raised. And
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
try to tell myself a lot that I am, uh, I'm very pro Black Lives. I'm very pro Africa and African solutions for African problems. And working in Uganda has taught me that and all of these things.
Hmm.
But I am, I'm a fan of Canadian music and Canadian stand-up comedy and Canadian performance art, but that's because I'm Canadian. If I
Hmm.
were Israeli, I would be about Israeli music and Israeli performance art. And I think every one of us tries to do the best that we can,
Yes.
given our belief systems, the way we were raised, the way our communities and our cultures have established our beliefs. But
That's right.
that's definitely people who are anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers. They're people who are questioning the status quo and questioning major media, and people who
Hmm.
are they're critical and they're cynical. And I think those are important qualities to have. And whether it's something that I agree with, whether it's something I disagree with, they're protesting something and they're asking for more information and validation and clarification on something rather than just taking it at face value. The same thing you can say about flat earthers and believing that the earth is flat. It's rejecting information that that is just given to you. And there are people out there who are performing science in a way. It's not pure science because I believe a lot of them are trying different scientific methods and hoping to arrive at a claim and not stopping until they arrive at that. I'm going off topic now, but I think there
I'm riveted. I'm like, yes, yes.
There's inherent value to counterculture or to protest or to backyard science and salon discovery and philosophy and all of these things. And just because I don't agree with it doesn't mean that they're not practicing reason and science and philosophy and cynicism and political dissonance, and all of those things are important to create a good society.
It takes all kinds.
It does. It does.
My favorite thing of all is God loves stupid too.
I love that.
I can credit that to my parents. God loves everybody, and God loves stupid too. Like, okay.
Let's talk about you a little bit more, because like you as an artist, I think it would be a good time to play a clip, because I'm going to ask about what it's like living with Snake and being sort of bunkered up together. So I chose a clip of the song Heavy that we're going to play because it's one that you've done together, and I want to talk about that. So here it is, a little bit from Heavy. So that was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So that song is called Heavy. Yes. And that was a performance by Snake in the Chain, which was a side project that we did that included the bass player Kiriakin himself. It was a lot of fun. We did a national Canadian tour.
Yeah.
And it's just fun, you know, and being able to live with my partner who I perform with, you know, should be more daunting than it is. But we have fun every day. He makes me laugh every day. Like with like the milk coming out of my nose, with Diet Coke coming out of my nose, laughing like every single day. There has never been a day I didn't laugh my head off living with this individual. And so being creative with him is sometimes daunting, and being stuck in 24/7 with someone. For us, we are anyway. My partner is shy, introverted person who really just prefers being inside. So I think for, you know, I don't mean to speak for Snake, but I think for him, he was just happy as a peach to be home all the time. Whereas I'm extremely social. You know, I love people. I love being out. I like volunteering. I like, you know, being out in the community. And having that kind of being limited has been a little hard. But at the same time, like now, you and I are on a video chat. That's been something that I think has been a real saving grace for a lot of people. They get to have Zoom meetings with their coworkers that they probably miss and don't realize they miss working with that person. I think that it's been manageable. And for us, we were in the middle of creating a new record called Champion anyway. So that didn't change for us. We were still doing that and still are. We had our first 3 singles already kind of ready to go. because I'm so, determined to have it in a particular order. So the first one we released on Valentine's Day, it was called Jim. And then the other two, we were kind of like vaguely, we're like, yeah, late summer, we'll put. So nothing really changed in that regard for us. And Champion, we did not have a release date set for this record. And now, of course, with the pandemic, what we have done is we started tinkering and revisiting these mixes. So now I'm actually going to recut two of my vocals because now, so much time has passed. I'm like, I think I want to actually sing it a little differently. Than what I did. And so that's kind of been a blessing in a way, because previously I wouldn't have had that opportunity.
Right. And now there's no rush. You do have the time.
That's right.
Oh,
so
that's great.
It's been really cool in that regard.
Can I ask about that process of remixing and looking at stuff? Because I'm looking down the barrel of recording my first album in 6 months or so. Which I'm terrified for because that puts everything on wax. That puts everything out there and it's final. It's a final product. And I know as an artist, nothing is ever complete.
No, nothing.
So that opportunity of revisiting and your acoustic hits album, what was that like as an experience?
Oh, well, that was really interesting because it was recorded in, I think it was 2011 or 2012. So my old guitar player, J.D. Ekstrom, was still alive. He passed away. But so it was, I have great memories of working on that recording with him and with Doug Fury, who I'm working with now. On my record. And Doug, of course, was in my band since like 1995. We co-wrote songs like Tango Shoes and Leader and all these fantastic songs for my repertoire. And now, of course, to write a new record with Doug and Snake. And it has just been like amazing. It's just been so amazing. So I think that it's been the pandemic in that way has given us an opportunity to rethink and reimagine things we already did. And I reimagine all the songs I've ever made, and you'll find the same thing too, Alice, when you are recording your record. I look back at my first record, and I sound like a dying cat. Actually, like I hear it in my ear, and I go, oh. But it's kind of funny because I hear how young I sound. Like my voice is lower than when I started singing because our vocal cords just get lower.
Right, they stretch out and they relax.
Yeah, it's just interesting. And I listened to my delivery of some of these songs when I was like, 22, 23 years old, and I just laugh. I'm just like, I sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks. Like, I don't even know how I physically produce that bullshit that is on there. But, it's still good. I mean, I'm sure it's that way with everything, with every artist. Can look at their past repertoire and reimagine, I could do so much better today. Or, it's funny how it goes. It is funny how it goes. But I did re-record the vocals for Lucky, which was on my second record. I re-recorded it about 3 other times in my career because the original recording for that I was never happy with. And so, because it's kind of pitchy and it's like, there are some syllables that, the enunciation isn't great and just all these little things. And I have re-recorded it. There was one time I re-recorded it trying to do it like Celine, like trying so hard. It never captured the same magic.
Right.
And so even though we can, want to redo some of these things, sometimes, that take that is like seemingly like a shittier take is actually the one that has the personality or the one that has that je ne sais quoi, it has that thing.
Right. Imperfections aren't always a bad thing.
No. And going into your first recording is very exciting. Just let it flow.
Yeah. The biggest piece of advice that I've had is it's going to seem like work. It's going to seem like I have a deadline and I have to write
Oh,
a certain amount of material and it has to be so good and it could become a chore. And the greatest piece of advice was that you still need to love it. Like you do
yeah,
this because you love it.
that's right.
And if you're not enjoying yourself on the recording and you're not having fun and you don't have that passion, it will translate. So I'm trying to keep that in the back of my mind. Um,
It's hard to say what'll
yeah.
come across. I mean, I've done vocals before where I'm bawling, singing,
Hmm.
and then my nose gets plugged up with snot, and then I can't do another take because I sound like Ethel Merman.
Mm.
But it just, yeah, I'm excited for you. Always remember
Ah,
that a bathroom makes a good vocal booth.
yes. Yes. That's why we sing in the shower.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Let's see. There were a couple things I wanted to. Yes. So we played a clip from Heavy because I wanted to talk about Snake in the Chain and
Mhm.
that cool project. But can I ask who is Jim?
Jim is a villain. So Jim is anybody we want it to be. You can insert any name. It can be
Hmm.
Jim, it can be Jenny, it can be anybody. Um, Basically, it's the individual who has betrayed us, and that's really the gist of the song. It's about acknowledging that someone is betraying us. I mean, that was the whole point of the line. You never loved me. Basically, you're saying to that person, like, you never loved me. You made a fool of me. Um, yeah, it was, and there were other songs. It's the only song on Champion that sounds like that. It doesn't sound like any other song on the record. But really, it was just so symphonic and it was so dramatic. It was like this soap opera that I just wanted it to be first
Hmm.
because it was so unique. And we made a unique video. So it was, yeah, Jim is any villain in your life.
Hmm. It did make such a unique video. I love the video.
Oh, I'm so happy.
As much as Jim is the villain, you are the action hero in that video. It's so great. Just
Oh,
so powerful and sexy. And
thank
the first shot
you.
of you in the chair is like, this is rock music's Cardi B. Just
Oh,
being
God bless you. Wow. Wow.
But no, just the iconic look and everything, the style of the whole video, the
Thank you.
drama, it's a great, great video. So we're
Oh,
gonna link to that as well.
oh, good.
Incredible, incredible first single for that album. I can't wait to hear the album.
Oh, I can't wait to play it for you.
Can't wait. One last question because we're over the 1 hour mark. Thank you for your time, by the way. Thanks
For
for
yours.
taking this time out of your day today. But because we are in sort of a difficult situation or a unique situation where we can't have concerts and shows and all of these things, we have a unique opportunity to engage with our audiences and our fans. Could you tell me one thing that your fans can do to help support you and help support live music and Canadian musicians right now through this time?
Well, I think that just being committed to all these artists is really important. And when I say committed, I mean, just by continuing to be a fan. It's not even, that's the bottom line, really and
Mhm.
truly. Um, I could say, well, make sure you go and, buy those records, kids, like whatever you do. But it's just not normal for people, and to badger, it's just not ever going to be my nature to badger people um to spend money. This is kind
Mhm.
of tough. All you can do is just hope that you can provide uh, some type of entertainment or respite to people, that they will come out and see you perform. And at the end of the day, that's the most important thing. So what do we do when we can't perform? Well, like you said at the top of the show, we are coming back. And I
Mm-hmm.
believe that with all my heart. I just think that, if you didn't like going to shows before because it was a work night, get rid of that way of thinking. Go to shows,
Mm-hmm.
support artists by going to see them perform, or lobby your municipality to have an outdoor festival so that you can have these groups of artists come, or like you said, backyard laneway shows, whatever it takes. I mean, at
Mm-hmm.
this point I'm like, maybe we should tour across the country on a flatbed truck
Yeah.
and do shows in all these communities. We're I mean, do I have to develop a play so that I can go in soft cedars and perform the record that way? I mean, these are things that we're thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
all I know is that I'm lucky to have scooted in under the wire when we did our acoustic tour, which ended on the 7th of March, if you can believe that. And I mean, I
Wow.
meet everyone at the show. I hug everyone at the show. I do a selfie with everyone at the show.
Right.
We were very,
Right.
very lucky to have had that opportunity right before all of this, kind of started. And so I just
Mm-hmm.
hope that we get there again and we can have that opportunity where we can all mix and mingle and it will once again be hugging season.
Yes, and bear with us while we work out the kinks and do these
That's right.
backyard
Yeah,
these guerrilla shows,
that's
and
right.
yeah, and don't forget about us.
That's right. That's it. That's all any artist dreams of.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been such a pleasure talking with you.
Yes, it's been lovely catching up with you.
Yes, and I can't wait to hug you again.
Me
Eventually it will
too.
happen. Yes.
Me too.
All right. Hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Great. Good night.
Bye.
Bye. And that was our show, Bif Naked. Oh my gosh. Such an incredible person. I'm almost speechless after that. That was such a good time. Um, but I have to do this. Okay. Friendly reminders, our next episode of the Corona Shift comes out. This episode will be coming out on Friday, the last Friday of August. I don't have my calendar up. I'm obviously such a mess from the interview. So make sure to check out the podcast on your favorite podcasting platform, Spotify, Google Play. Follow it. You can find out everything we're doing on comicsansproductions.ca. Follow Biff on Facebook, Instagram, all social media. Check out her daily photo, all of these things. And the part I always am a little uncomfortable with because it's asking about money. But did you know that you can also subscribe to my Patreon? I have a little Patreon, and I try to give as many benefits as possible. So among a ton of other other benefits like early access, exclusive content, and merch, patrons can also get a chance to co-host a future episode. That means you could take part in an interview like this one, and maybe we'll have Biff back for that. But we have a great little lineup of guests here, so check that out. And on Patreon, you can get exclusive content. There's a tote bag that I can't even get. When you subscribe to my Patreon, we're offering patrons 10 to 50% of everything on the merch store, including t-shirts, merch, tickets, everything like that. So make sure to follow that. And other than that, thank you from the bottom of my heart for supporting live entertainment, live stand-up comedy, queer comedy, and everything we do. All of my dreams are coming true at exactly the same time, and it's because of people like you. So thank you so much. Have a great week, and we will see you again soon. Bye.